What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Soccer Wise. David Goss and Tommy Scoots, otherwise known as David Marshall Mather, over my headphones because I am cold in my Miami apartment, which makes no logical sense, and therefore I am doing something wrong right now. Tom, I saw you in person this weekend. It was fantastic. Now I'm seeing you digitally once again.
This is nice. And then that is going to undercut me because I was about to just call you soft for being cold. You're in Miami. Guy goes to Miami. It's just like, oh, it's
and then I said a nice thing, and now you feel guilty about trying to.
100%. 3D chess there.
That's what I'm always trying to. Always trying to keep you off kilter. Just making sure you don't know if there's love or hate. You don't know what the emotion should be. That is how we feel about the U.S. men's national team many times when we watch them play soccer. If there's ever any love, we will dig into that game. And of course, we're going to talk Canada as well, coming off what is technically a historic result in their 3-0 victory in Bucharest against Romania. We'll talk about some Leagues Cup suspension stuff. And then we've got our latest state of soccer. And it is one I'm very excited about because I lived in Boston for 4 years. I have one of the worst New England accents on the planet, but I cannot stop doing it around certain words. And one of them is New Hampshire. Welcome to New Hampshire. It's what's new. We are going to be doing New Hampshire as our 50th state. Of course, the home of the one and only Charlie freaking Davies, our favorite person in all of soccer. So we're going to talk to him later in the week about all things New Hampshire soccer and probably about the U.S. men's national team as well at some point. In all of that, we've got Kickback Committee coming out Wednesday morning as a bit of a reaction to the Japan game that the U.S. will be playing on Tuesday night. That's a good reminder. I have to watch the USA game on Tuesday night. That's what I'm going to be doing on Tuesday night. That game in Columbus, Ohio. I believe it's the inverse then. South Korea plays Mexico and Canada on the verge of playing Wales. So we'll talk about all of that coming up when we get there. It was an electric weekend for us. We met up in the parking lot post-hurricane at Red Bull Arena. It is what it's called. Tyler Adams told us to say that, so that's what we will say. We hung out then post-game outside of Red Bull Arena. Then we both watched our football teams get macerated on Sunday, mine a little less than yours. The Mets lost to the Cincinnati Reds. My flight got delayed 2 hours. We are living the dream.
Pretty electric, and it just goes to show that obviously things go bad. The sports team don't have hope. I think I texted you. I definitely texted my family this, and I was like, I have, for the first time in a long time, I feel something that isn't apathy towards the New York Football Giants season starting. And I was like, they're not going to be good, but they're going to be fun. They were neither good nor fun. So, just continuation from the debacle that was the national team against Korea. Yeah. Is this what it's like being a Jets and Mets fan all the time?
Yes. Yeah. This morning, because I like to wake up, I love to listen to a sports podcast.
You like to wake up? I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't like to wake up. As you all should as well. I like to get up, maybe throw something on in the background, and it's like, okay, do I listen to a Jets show because we're excited that we put up points while losing to Aaron Rodgers? Or do I listen to a Mets show and we talk about the train wreck of a series that we just went through and how we potentially blew our season at the last possible minute? Or I could listen to a soccer podcast, which would have been heavily related around the U.S. men's national team not having beaten a top 50 opponent besides Mexico in the last, 1,000 days or whatever the number is. It is not an ideal situation. We were at the game. Many people saw me on TV helping hold up the flag. I was in the front row of the supporter section and didn't know I was on TV until my phone exploded after I think they showed it during the anthem. And then you were
patriotic, David Goss.
Exactly. And you were in the press box being a capital J journalist, breaking down the stories.
And then joining CBS's live stream from a broom closet somewhere inside the ticketing booth at Red Bull Arena, thanks to some friends. That's where I did the hit from. It was a 3x3 closet, bad lighting, and I was holding a cardboard box that was holding my computer up. And you just get stuff done. When you're capital J, you just get it done, right?
Edward R. Murrow did a broadcast out of the back of a bomber plane over Germany. Are you saying that you're better than Edward R. Murrow?
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. Just checking on that one. Breaking news. Tom says he's not. Second biggest newsbreaker in MLS behind Andrew Wiebe. We will talk about Andrew Wiebe's earth-shattering news coming up later. I don't actually have it on the rundown, so maybe we won't. The U.S. playing in New Jersey, so they honored Michael Bradley before the game, which was cool. He got his opportunity to come out. The crowd, was able to interact with him a bit. A lot of chants for him going on around me, which I thought was really cool.
I like
and
that.
we talked about him a bit pregame. I can only imagine the experience he has engaging with this team and watching this team. And in the highlights that they put up about him, it showed like him and Christian Pulisic around the 2017 time window when Pulisic broke into the team and Bradley was the leader. And obviously we know like the emotion on Pulisic's face when they didn't qualify, and so much responsibility, I think, for that team fell to Bradley's shoulders. And so it's interesting to now see him back around the group. And I'm very curious to know what the conversations were like that he was having. And then they got out on the field. I thought the U.S. was good for about 20 minutes.
They're fine. I thought they were fine.
Yeah, they played through some build-outs. I thought they controlled the game for the most part in that stretch. And then who else but Sonny with the opening goal to make it 1-0. And then South Korea made it 2-0 right before the stroke of halftime. On the lineup, Tristan Blackman made his debut. He was the only one that did, but gets the start at center back alongside Tim Ream, which maybe was a little bit surprising. And I think we felt Chris Richards would be the staple, and then it would be who rotates alongside him.
So Pochettino, and just so much to get to from his post-game press conference, but Pochettino in the post-game press conference indicated, or at least said, they were trying to protect Richards. He couldn't go 90, something that effect. Why play him at all? I don't like that. That's like middling to me. If he wasn't able to play 90 minutes and it was a risk to play him too much, why did he sub in? It's just incongruent to me. And that's what, and again, maybe that's colored by earlier in the show, in the press conference. There's a lot of things that I just I thought were patently false, but we'll just say I disagreed with.
Okay, we don't really have to wait. I had some notes. Luna.
No. I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the game first.
No, Luna was in the attack with the A guys, which I think was what I wanted to see, which was exciting. Berhalter gets a start alongside Adams. Who else but Max frickin' Arfston with the start at left back, and then Serginho Dest back into the team now, feeling healthy, and Matt Freese, it feels like right now, is the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team. Got the full 90 in this one. Coming out of halftime, I think down 2-0, the U.S. played with a little bit more emphasis, a little bit more push, and then you mentioned the substitution. So Chris Richards comes on in a large group of subs. They shifted to a 3-5-2 or 3-6-1, whatever you want to call it. Balogun coming in as the center forward in place of Josh Sargent, who got the start originally. Alex Freeman comes on to play right wing back. Richards coming on at center back, pushing Blackman and Ream a little bit wider and trying to add into the attack. And then Zendejas coming on as well. And there was more threat from the U.S. after that, partially because they were trailing 2-0 at home to South Korea. So you would hope that they would start throwing things forward. And there was 2 or 3 chances, one big one, that it's a miracle they did not score, which sort of feels like the team at times right now. But I don't see a world in which you come out of this and say that they were the better team. Let's start on the field. Was there things you saw that you liked, didn't like, that stood out to you that are still sticking in your mind?
Yeah, I'll start on the positive side. I really like the combinations of Pulisic on the right, Luna in the middle, and Way on the left. I thought Way's decision making and like final touch, final ball was bad on the day, but I think that's something that can be improved with reps. And again, Pochettino spoke about this in the press conference as well, saying, hey, when he's somebody who plays so many different positions, hey, if he's playing wingback, that's a different mentality than winger. So I think he was giving him a little bit of leeway for understanding that, like his end product wasn't great, but it is a different mentality of how much more aggressive you have to be and just little things like that, which I think is important to remember when talking about this. But more so for me, there was a few moments where Pulisic and Luna in particular were combining, and I really, really like that. And I think that those two positions suit those two players better than Luna playing on the wing or Pulisic. It also gave Pulisic freedom to drift in and around. And again, that's what you want for your best players. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was a positive. There were some good combinations with Dest and Pulisic. It's still like a liability defensively that Sun exploited between Blackman and Dest going down that flank, which is why you noted it already, the back three at the end of the game. And yes, game states dictated. I think that they were going to be on the front foot, dominating the ball, kind of no matter what system they were playing. But back three, or if you want to play it in a hybrid way, where Tim Ream is technically a left back and a back four, but stays when you're in possession as a back three, and freeing the wing backs to get forward, because Arfston, Dest, and Freeman, their best qualities are going forward. And Anthony Robinson is really good going forward too, but he's more two-way than those guys. I think that solves those issues. It allows Pulisic to play in a half space going forward, so he can be a winger, he can be a 10-ish. I think that suits this team very, very well, but very, very well is all relative given how empty this team has been.
Yeah, I thought, as I said in the opening 20 minutes, there's 2 or 3 times Korea pressed the U.S. and they played out of their right side, and Pulisic, the final touch from Pulisic was really, really special to get them out. The frustrating thing about the whole team is then as they break in transition, someone chooses to hold the play up, and then they reset, and there isn't really final third patterns that then break a team down, and so they lose their advantage. But in saying that, like you mentioned, the connection there between Dest and Pulisic is good. Sometimes Pulisic coming inside, Dest makes the run outside of him, or the other way. And Dest is like the one player on this team where you can play him in a little bit of trouble coming out of the back under pressure, because he will be able to play through it. And I thought they tried to take advantage of that fairly well. And then, as you said, Pulisic's ability to float, because Luna can take space around him or Dest can take space around him. In the first half, it was dangerous at times. In the second half, the best moments in the run of play, not set pieces, was they found Pulisic in the central area with space for him to turn and run. And he was able to start attacking the back line. The runs and his decision-making off of those were all pretty poor. They ended up, for the most part, being like the obvious pass slid out wide to Zendejas or Freeman or whoever was coming in off their right side, which the defense was able to close down. And I think on the final chance, the one that Balogun has the open goal that he's not able to put away, that starts with Pulisic being put into space, and he takes a touch, and he is way too slow to try and get a shot away. And that stuff's frustrating. It's frustrating for him. I think it's frustrating for the team, and it's kind of like one of the issues, which is I think still too much of this team is put on his shoulders of like, just figure it out. And there are very few players in the world who can do that. And I don't know that he's one of them. And so I think you walk away from this game, and what I said post-game, we did a video, I did a video for SoccerWise, is like middle third stuff is kind of fine. I think they were a little easy to play through centrally. I think part of that is Luna being in there. And like that's going to be one of the things that you take away. But in general, it's fine. But final third on both ends is a lower quality than the teams they're playing against. South Korea being the example right now. Attacking third, like super obvious. Defensive third, the second goal, it's a 1-2. Everyone knows that 1-2 is coming. On the first goal, Ream keeps Sun on, and Blackman has no idea where the channel is. Like Blackman
and there's no pressure on the ball too.
Yeah,
like
and Blackman
spacing
multiple times in that area was like, okay, well, they're going to play into the channel, and he didn't really, I think, know where he was on the field and where he wanted to be. And some of that might be playing alongside Serginho Dest in your debut and all of that. And so they got cut open a couple times in that area. And then on the second one, I don't really remember why Ream is on the right and Blackman's on the left at that moment. But Ream, I think, feels like Blackman's a little disconnected. And so he doesn't want to follow Sun's run, because then you potentially have someone wide open on the top of the box in possession, or whoever ends up making the run on the 1-2. And so Ream gets stuck in no man's land. Blackman's too late to come over. And it's stuff like that where South Korea didn't give up those openings. Like, they did not lose men. They did not lose markers in the final third.
Yes. And not quite to the same extent, but watching the incredible Bills-Ravens game last night, I don't know that the New York Giants and those two teams play the same sport. I use that as an example here. The South Korean structure, you know how they wanted to play. They wanted to build up from the back. They wanted to get in behind with Sun. They wanted to threaten. And with that threat, there was space in between the lines then. You could very clearly tell how they want to play. Gus, tell me one thing that the U.S. national team wants to do. One thing, one definite stylistic thing that you know this is a goal, whether they're succeeding or failing. Is it pressing? Is it sitting deep? Is it transition? Is it patient build out? Is it route one? Is it crosses? Is it whatever? What is it?
They're losing in the trenches. The run play option isn't there. So no.
But what are they trying to do? Is my point. I don't.
Yes. No. I agree with you, and I think that's like one of the most frustrating things about this team. So, I went to the game with some people who had never been to a soccer game before at all, and one of them at halftime, it was like, "Oh, I haven't watched a soccer game in like 20 years," and they were like, "Why?" Every time the U.S. team has the ball, the Korean team looks really organized and like they're all behind the ball and they all are in the same place. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of a good thing. And then they were like, and it feels like they're trying harder. And you're like, this person who is technically a novice took 45 minutes to feel some of that. The U.S. press was maybe the worst part of the game. And the South Korean press was very, very good for the most part. And it caused the U.S. a ton of trouble. They had trouble playing out of the back. They put Arfston and Ream in bad spots. Dest had to deal with stuff. The U.S. press, for the most part, feels like if Diego Luna decides to go because he wants to press, 2 attackers will go with him. And then the fullbacks have to figure out that they're pressing. And they're about 40 yards off the play. So if they can close a 40-yard gap in time, then they will close it down and win the ball back. And there's a moment in the first half where the U.S. turns South Korea over. I think it lands to Berhalter on the top of the box who takes a shot. It like maybe was the best moment of the game. Everything else, South Korea is playing through pressure because the U.S. is disconnected. And to your point, so that's out of possession. Transition moments, as I said, when they were able to play through Korea's pressure, they held up the ball in transition moments. Final third, runs, passing patterns is maybe the worst part there. And I've said this like 4 times now that might be the worst part. So I think that's kind of building on itself. The amount of like crossfield passes they play to someone who's not open. So now you're making their life harder because people are frustrated that there's just nothing in front of them and they don't know what they want to do. There's a moment in the second half where Freeman gets on the ball in the left wing and I'm behind the goal staring, and Zendejas, Balogun, Pulisic, and maybe one other person are in a straight line. Like they all made the same run and then they all stopped and stood in the same space. And this is not, we want to overload the space. This is everyone's making it up on the fly. And like we have a question in the chat about MLS players, and obviously, I don't know, there's some level of the internet that has some reaction, which I think is really fascinating. I saw one person explain it online. They were like, MLS players aren't good enough, so they couldn't beat South Korea. South Korea, a team that wasn't capable of beating Oman. And it's like, so the players are clearly not the problem because all the players on Oman and Jordan don't play in European leagues that you're saying are better. There is no cohesion. There is no clear ideas. And there is no moment that the U.S. has where you're like, okay, they have something about them, whether it's anticipation of the play, ideas that they want to make, working together to elevate the group above what the individuals are capable of.
I think that last point is a good one. I don't remember the last time that it felt like this team played better than the sum of its parts. And that goes back to the Berhalter era too, because even when they were getting results and looking at the 2022 World Cup, I still think that was job well done. It was solid, if unspectacular, because even when they were getting some of those results, it was like always felt like that there could be more. And right now we know that there should be more, right? Because they're playing awful. They've lost outside of the Gold Cup 5 games in a row now, in 15 FIFA international windows, essentially just saying take away the 2 January camp results under Pochettino because that's not a real window. The other teams they're playing don't have their best player. You should win every single one of your January camp games or should be dominant, right? So take that away. They have lost 7 of 15 games under Pochettino. The wins are against, Jamaica twice, Panama, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago. The best part about the Bob Bradley era was this team always played above the sum of its parts. Yes, they had some very, very good players, but we always have the argument about the talent level and who would get in the team now, but like look at where all these guys are playing and look at all the talents and all of that can be true. The team never plays beyond the sum of its parts. It always did, or maybe we're doing a little revisionist history. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't always. It felt like a whole lot of the time that the team was playing beyond the sum of its parts, and I think that's one of the biggest frustrations. It's not even about potential, which we got carried away with, I think, around the 22 World Cup, which is why I keep on pushing back that round of 16 was job well done. Not an A+, not a failure. Somewhere just pretty average. C's get degrees, and the potential has not
come. That is a Wall, New Jersey line so much.
But like you know where I'm going with this. Like it's just frustrating, and it's just it's somewhere between ambivalence and apathy when looking at this team, and you mentioned the comment in the chat, and like the literal word, and like all of these are in bad faith. All of these are in bad faith when it comes like this. Some people think, and that's always a good way to start with, this is what I think. Some people think that MLS players are sandbags in terms of holding players like Pulisic down. Do you agree? That I think it is reductive and frustrating and divisive that it becomes MLS versus Europe. Criticize Tristan Blackman if you think he didn't play well. Criticize Tim Weah if you think he didn't play well. I don't care where the player is playing. It is not indicative. Like, every situation is different. It's just that's where the ambivalence comes in, because it's like, what's the point? There is no discourse. There is no meaningful way to talk about this if it's just immediately go look at the replies to any of my tweets around the national team. It's like you got to throw out 70% of them, because it's like these are all bad faith arguments, and it's like, all right, like what are we accomplishing here?
That's why you got to be on Blue Sky only, Tom. That's why we are on Blue Sky, because it's the best. And yet, a lot of the replies are all the same. A lot of the conversations all the same, and it's hard. Yeah, I mean, one of the things was everyone. I think there was a large group of people who felt Greg Berhalter was the problem. I think that's hard to continue to say at this point, like as long as Mauricio Pochettino's been in the job. Here is the actual stat that I made up before. Obviously from Paul Carr, USMNT has now lost 5 straight games versus FIFA top 25 teams by a combined 11-1. They are winless in the last 7 against top 25, getting outscored 17-3, excluding Mexico, which I think is fair, by the way, which is, as hard as a USA-Mexico game is, there is a comfort level there of like, it happens before.
I feel like they've played them 100 times in the last 7 years.
So excluding Mexico,
you're going to win one.
The last U.S. win against a FIFA top 25 team was Iran at the 2022 World Cup, over 3 years ago at this point. And that's sort of the like frustration that everyone is living in. And like, I went to the game and you're talking to people, and people are asking me in New York, like, oh, you're here for the game. Like, what's the deal with the team? What's happening? And it's like, it's hard to explain to people like, oh yeah, no, this is fun. Or this is exciting. Or like,
because it's
you should want to be a part of this. Yeah. And it's really, really tough. I think in the end, the coolest part about the game was the South Korea fans at Red Bull Arena. And like, it was, what, 70-30, you think? Fans?
At least. I'm not a hashtag math guy, so don't get me 100%, but like 75 is I feel pretty safe saying. And like, there were just so many red South Korea shirts, so many Sun shirts, obviously. They had thunder sticks. I don't know how they got those in. There was a lot of thunder sticks, and I respected that. On a noise level, probably more than 80%.
Yeah. And it's why I'm so excited about the World Cup being here. Like, I don't believe there's another country in the world that can have that for multiple other nations, right? Like, you have many countries in the world where it's like there's one huge population that lives there, right? If you play a Turkey game in Germany, I don't know, France has its own stuff going on. So yeah, maybe if you played Algeria, Morocco, multiple teams, Senegal, whatever it is, French-speaking nations. But like, that is the case at Red Bull Arena for Ecuador and Colombia. And when you bring Ivory Coast in, and Nigeria and South Korea, like, these fans had not seen their team in person, many of them, in 20 years. maybe their entire lives. And so it was really cool to see them get to experience that. Son scoring, like, obviously was the capper for everyone. You could feel the energy in the building when he subbed off, and like how electric it was and how everyone was, standing up, giving him the applause, all of that. That may have been the highlight. That's not really supposed to be the point of things. And like, that should be part of the fabric of the event. And it always has been for a USA game in the US. But the other side of it should be, there's this, you would like for any of the Korea fans who were there to have walked away being like, this US team's better than I expected. Or like, they are a factor in what just occurred versus we won 2-0. We were the ones who pushed the game. Like, we did everything. Now, push the game is the arguable part now coming out of it. Mauricio Pochettino post-game, Tom, you were in the room. Can you sort of walk us through, and you were in the mix zones as well, of like what you heard and what went down?
Yeah. Pochettino, like, he was not taken out of context. It was not lost in translation. He said, we were the better team despite the result. We need to be more clinical in the attacking third and the defensive third. My editorialization, that's pretty important. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. The final thirds are important. I think South Korea were better in the middle third too, but I digress. So that was, listen, I didn't expect him to go up and just throw his team under the bus or panic. Like, so I appreciate that. And he's a pretty jovial and optimistic guy. And he tries to come in with some context and not go too far in either direction. But I thought that was tone deaf. It landed exactly as I expected and as it should have among the fan base. And then there were some follow-up questions about, hey, like, what's your message to the fans? Like, going towards the World Cup. And hey, like, if, at some point you need to start winning games, right? Like, and he goes, no, we need to start when the World Cup starts. And he said in his career, he was with Argentina, a team that was, an 0-2 or whatever, that won a bunch of friendlies and won them convincingly going into the World Cup and then got eliminated at the group stage. I understand that. I would like to see some positive steps forward. And again, even just basic stylistic stuff. So that I didn't like. And so that became the obvious and most important question to go ask the players. Serginho Dest was the only one who was like, no, he's right. We don't have any pressure. Like, not any pressure. Like, we don't have to win. These are friendlies. You're supposed to try things. You're supposed to learn things. Matt Freese was like, I always want to win. We need to win. Yes, like, the underlying performance is most important, but we need to be better. We need to win. Balogun was like, yeah, there's always pressure to win. And guess what? At the international level, you're supposed to play really, really good teams. So it's supposed to be difficult. He's like, the pressure doesn't like weigh on me, but there is pressure because I put pressure on myself as well to win games. Tyler Adams, like, kind of like, he, as the leader that he is, would like, he goes, I love the feeling of winning. I always want to win no matter what. I agree. He was like, I understand, like, Pochettino, I agree with the point, but we need to win games, right? Like, so I thought that was interesting, and I think that would have been a better tone for the head coach to take.
Yeah. You could understand, like, trying to say, I have a plan, it's a long-term plan, not every result is, like, the exact thing, and therefore I don't want to get too far down. The problem is you haven't won any meaningful game in a really long time.
It is every result.
and like, there's no belief, okay, South Korea, now Japan, the result's going to come. And I think, as you said, for a lot of the fan base, it's really, really hard to hear, especially in the context of we're talking 3+ years without a win like this. And I would argue that, and then I think then maybe the worst part, for the 500th time I've said that, is that I don't know that they did play better. Like, they had a slight possession.
Straight up, they didn't.
Yeah, they had a slight possession advantage against a team that was technically away and led 2-0 for over 45 minutes of the game, therefore had no reason to be the impetus team on the front foot. Korea had the possession in the opening 5 minutes. Like, they came out and played, then they sat in a little bit more, and then they were lethal in their transition moments because they had clear ideas of where they wanted the ball to go, and they were able to anticipate. And I don't know that the U.S. was that dangerous. Most of the danger came late in the game when you get into, as Matt Doyle likes to call it, tactics-free zone, and a lot of it came off of set pieces, which is fair, but that doesn't mean you're playing better soccer or you were the better team in the game. So I don't know that any of that is true, and I think that makes it really hard to stomach for a lot of people.
And so Mike is saying this in the chat as well. Game states. it's so important, and I think that was part of the frustration too for me. It was just like Pochettino kept on saying, they had one or two shots in the second half. They had one or two shots in the second half. Like, is the audience that stupid that we can't figure out?
They're defending a 2-0 lead.
Of course, and guess what? By the 60th minute, South Korea made 5 subs. This is what happens in friendlies. The first 60 minutes are most important, and then it gets disjointed. Like, when Son Heung-min isn't striking the fear of God into everybody in the defensive third of the United States, it's a little bit easier to play against, right? Like, and guess what? In a World Cup game, Son Heung-min is playing 90 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. Whew. So, the U.S. will now go on to play Japan
hold
on Tuesday night.
Can we talk about Son real quick?
Yeah.
So, from the press box, I was watching his movement off the ball a lot. And Tyler Adams spoke to this as well about like how intelligent his movement is, how relentless his movement is. He would split the center backs and obviously the space between Blackman and Dest. Excellent. Anytime, like this was why it was clear you could see what they wanted to do. Son was darting in behind or getting like nonstop, and the movement was so intelligent. South Korean head coach after the game like asked about Son playing as a center forward. We wanted him to focus completely on the attack. We wanted to give him his strengths and everything, like get in behind everything else. So in an LAFC context, this is exactly what I think is the best use of Son Heung-min, particularly in a team with Denny Bouanga, who's going to be playing left wing, and why I have so much optimism that not a deep analysis to say, yeah, I think it's a good signing, but like this was like, oh my God, like that's everything he did against the United States was world class. Again, Tyler Adams said that, the South Korean head coach said that. And so I think that's an easy blueprint. But the caveat for LAFC is that was all super, super dangerous because South Korea was able to hold possession and trying to hold possession, maybe more importantly. LAFC need to do that. And if they do, Bouanga and Son are going to be terrifying. And yes, they will have transition moments, and they should have transition moments because they're really great at that too, particularly Bouanga. But it needs to start with more possession. And if they're able to unlock more possession for the rest of the season here and going into the playoffs, like they'll be among the favorites.
Yeah. The other thing for LAFC that is really useful for them is the amount of LAFC Sun jerseys with the Korean last name that I saw in the stadium. Like that alone would probably be one of the higher selling MLS jerseys of like just the people I saw on Saturday. Not like, oh, this is everyone in the world who bought it. Like there was black and gold everywhere. Obviously they wear red, so everyone like had it as part of it. I saw LAFC scarves, like, and I think most people were local. Like most people live in Jersey or New York that are coming, and it's a huge Korean population in its own right. One that I'm very familiar with, that I grew up around, and that I love and think is great, and can't wait to go watch a World Cup game there maybe again next year, as I've done for the last 20 years. But that is pretty cool. And I think there's going to be, as we expected, a lot of buy-in for him. And as you said, it can be really, really good on the field. I mean, he was the best player on the field. So if you're thinking about what do I do with DPs and how does the DP matter and whatever, it's like in this game, 2 top 25 teams, well, the U.S. isn't. Like, he was the best player on the field, and so he is still that good, and the finish is unreal. Like, it is not a good angle, and he buries that thing past Freeze into the far post, and he's one of the best players. I want to give a quick shout-out to Vince and the Scuff family for housing me through the hurricane. It was slight coincidence, but slightly on purpose. I was out at the AO tailgate, and I brought 0 rain gear, including shoes of any sort that should be in a parking lot during a hurricane. It's straight up hurricane for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was able to shelter in the Scuffed tent. So thank you to Vince and everyone else. Part of the Scuff family. I think we've both been on the show many times.
Yep.
And they do a great job.
Yes, they do.
Assume they are going to be as despondent as we are. I've heard Charlie Davies was, Jimmy Conrad. I saw someone in the comments on the CBS show saying, I've never heard Jimmy this down. Is he okay? I haven't listened to the post game on TNT because I was at the game, so I don't know what Dunny was saying. I think everyone's kind of in the same boat, and it's hard because the team doesn't really give you an excuse or an opening to try and get out of that. They will finish up this camp with a friendly in Columbus tomorrow night, Tuesday night, against Japan. Japan came into the Mexico game tied 0-0 at the Oakland Coliseum. Both teams played their best 11. I think this is a Japanese team that will probably have more possession than South Korea did. I thought Japan was the better team against Mexico. I thought they were more dangerous from the run of play. And I thought they controlled midfield for large stretches of that game. Mexico had some decent chances. Most of that was on set pieces or late in the game, as you said, after like the run of substitutions that occurs. Is there anything specific that you want to see, that you care about, that you're looking for? Or are we back to get a freaking result and like, I don't want to talk about this?
I got nothing. It's just, are you excited for this game in any way?
I like watching Japan play soccer, so there's
there
that
you go.
going for me. I don't know. At some point, this seems like a crazy thing to say. At some point, something goes your like. One of those goals should have gone in against South Korea. At some point, something's got to roll your way, and if that's the case, maybe you generate a little juice off of it. And if they take a 1-0 lead, it could be fun. But I don't know. I will say this, and this is someone who spent the last 2 months talking about how Josh Sargent's the center forward. I won't be shocked if Balogun gets the start. He was effective. He was dangerous. He was threatening. Again, a lot of that is game states, but that doesn't mean that the coach isn't going to notice it or the coach is going to walk away from it. Outside of that, if Richards is fit for it, he's the starter. If not, I guess not. I failed to mention in the run of substitutes, Christian Roldan, who got on the field in that set of 4 subs in the 60th or so minute and did Christian Roldan stuff. Got stuck in, is a gnat to opponents. I think teammates like playing with him, like all that stuff happened.
Exactly. Teammates like play that. Like that is a great way to summarize the Christian Roldan experience. In addition to just his intelligence, work rate, quality, and everything else. So it was good to see him get on the pitch. You never quite know, and sometimes it's like, oh, so he didn't make the squad, but he's now getting on the field a couple minutes later. But I get it.
Okay, Canada, 3-0 win at Romania. So for them, historic win. First win over a Euro opponent in Europe in 16 years. So that takes us all the way back to 2009. For a team that's missing Moise Bombito, Alphonso Davies, and Alistair Johnston, which you would argue are 3 of the 4 starters along the back line, Derek Cornelius being the lone true A starter. I think especially Moise Bombito, like Fonzie, best player on the team, game changer, a lot of that going forward. Alistair Johnston, very, very good, but I think we're at this point where you trust Richie Larea in a lot of these moments. And Nico Segor got the opportunity and ended up getting an assist and a goal from the right back position. But I think that for Canada is a huge positive because for them, as fun as the attacking talent has been over the last 5 years, the center back specifically and the defensive depth has been the biggest worrying sign for this team. And so that was a huge moment for them. I think that was a huge performance for them. And in the 16 years, it's interesting because you're on the one hand, you're like, okay, this is a team that's gotten a lot better, right? Like they have improved on the field and therefore that's why this happens. But the other parts to note about this team are just how much more organized and relevant they are to the rest of the world. You go back through these friendlies, they weren't beating European teams in Europe because they weren't even playing them. They played Mauritania more times in a 4-year span than I knew Mauritania even played soccer games. And they played them in Marrakesh, and they played them, I think, in Georgia, where it was, in Oliva, Spain. Why are they playing Mauritania 3 times in a 4-year span? I have no idea. Canada has played a ton of games in Dubai and Abu Dhabi because they're cheap places that will host you. They're midway between playing a Japan and Australia. They've played Oman. They've played teams where it's fine to go out and get different styles against you. Although, reminder, this is for a program that was not going to a World Cup. So it's not like they were planning to play Asian Federation teams anytime soon. It just goes to show on and off the field how far this program has come, that they are organized enough internally to go out and schedule the right teams early enough so that they get good games in matchups, that they are viewed positively externally, that yes, they are worth the game, they're worth the challenge. The Romania coach as they're in World Cup qualifying kind of was like, I really wish we didn't have a game today, but I'm glad it's versus Canada because at least it'll be competitive and test our players and force them to sort of like elevate their game and play at a high level. And now they're good enough to go into those games and get results. So I think overall, it's just a little window into how much this has changed in a very quick time.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway as well, is that was a good way to look back on. Like, we forget now, take it for granted, but we kind of forget now where this program, this federation was a decade ago even, right? Like, the rise of this team and the influx of development and talent that obviously got the world's attention when Alphonso Davies was coming through. But you look at all these players, like, again, Jonathan David scored. He's once again the all-time leading scorer in Canadian soccer history. It's like him and Kyle Larin. So be going back and forth, or the possibility to go back and forth as they continue to add goals. But yeah, like Jonathan David is, again, a Juventus center forward. Alphonso Davies is a Bayern Munich player, right? Like these are things that you never ever think about 10 years ago even, right? Like, or even with Davies, maybe from the outside, you thought, hey, is this just like, you're like Alphonso Davies, if he grew up anywhere in the world, he would, like, some players are so special that they're going to make it no matter what, right? For Davies, like, yes, that's obviously part of it, but they have brought through a lot of talent beyond him to create what this team is now. And going to Romania and winning that game and in a dominant fashion, helped a little bit by Romania, particularly the Ali Ahmed goal, which shout out to Ali Ahmed for his first goal. This is a program that is really strong right now, but don't have that foundation of like 20 years, 30 years of constantly traveling, expecting to be in World Cups, preparing for World Cups, knowing all the things to do. So they're not first at this moment, like kind of 2022 cycle was, but this is like the first generation of like, oh yeah, like we're supposed to be here. We were at the table.
Yeah. So 10 years back, Canada didn't even play a friendly in 2015. They were in World Cup qualifying and Gold Cups. I assume that's why. Excuse me. They played a January camp, sort of. They played Guatemala and Puerto Rico, and they played Ghana, which I think was off the back of the U.S. playing Ghana. They played Ghana in Washington, D.C. I'm pretty sure that's because the U.S. brought Ghana into play, and then Canada was able to organize the second game. In 2016, Canada played the U.S. in a January camp friendly. They played in World Cup qualifying. Then they played Azerbaijan in Austria. They played Uzbekistan in Austria. Then they played Mauritania in Morocco. Then they played Morocco in Morocco, which I assume is why everyone was there. And then they went to South Korea in November and played South Korea, which was clearly a window of Korea saying, if you want to come here, like we'll fit space in, but you have to come to us. Now you look at this year, Canada hosted this Canada Cup thing back in June, where you have Ivory Coast and Ukraine and Wales coming to play you. Now they're going to go play in Cardiff against Wales. They played in Romania. Again, as you said, how far it's come, how different things are, and I think how exciting this team is. And like, as they broke through for 2022, it's this generation of players. Now you look at this game, and the stars are Ali Ahmed, Tani Oluwaseyi, Nico Seeger, all players who were not a part of the program yet. And so, like, there are more players coming through. Ali Ahmed had an assist on the opener and then pressed the goalkeeper into the second goal. That was clearly Jesse Marsch's dream freaking goal. And it's not like the best pressure. It really was an untimely mistake from the goalkeeper at a moment, but you are in place to take advantage of it. Yep. You are in the right area to be able to score a goal because you're pushing play. And I think Ali Ahmed, it's really cool that he has been able to solidify his spot in this team. This was Jesse's quote about him. We know Ali's really important. He's one of our most complete midfielders. He understands the behaviors we want, the tactics we want. He's an incredibly important person. I knew when he went down at the Gold Cup, that was going to hurt us. I thought he played great. What a goal, you know? I mean, as a pressing coach, those are the goals that make me happiest. So really well done by Ali. So huge camp for him. Yep. As Jesse said, when he went down at the Gold Cup, I think he had 2 goals against Honduras in that blowout game, then didn't play a single game after that in the Gold Cup, which I think hurt this team. The other thing about this camp is there is sort of a like, okay, did we lose to Guatemala in a knockout game in PK shootouts because stuff happens sometimes, or is something wrong? And I think coming out and beating Romania 3-0 the way they did puts it into the, okay, stuff happens sometimes in knockout competitions and soccer, and I think that's really good for this team. And then for Tanny to get the start again up top alongside Jonathan David is really, really big. I think he's looked really good in that spot. He has the confidence to play his game. He does not like defer to the stars, and I actually think that's why he keeps getting in this team. And it's the same what it was at Minnesota, right? Kelvin Yeboah, Joaquin Pereira, like they're the DPs. And Tanny's like, if I have space, I'm calling my number because I'm the guy. And it's helped him. And I think it's going to continue to help him as he moves forward in his career.
And playing alongside Jonathan David, you go back to Minnesota, like the season started with him and Kelvin Yeboah. And I think that is why he was so comfortable in this role and why it makes sense. And they've got options in the attack and they're good options. And it's a really good time for Canada. And like you said, when those, particularly Bombito and Alphonso Davies, get back, like it's a really strong team.
It is a very, very strong team. A lot to be excited about. One weird moment coming out of this game or in this game was that Ismael Kone was taken off in like the 60th minute alongside Ali Ahmed. You assume they're friendlies. It's a 2 games rotation. When Kone came off, he was sort of talking to Jesse, and Jesse sort of grabbed his arm and was like trying to reason with him. Clearly there was a discussion happening. Then the camera cuts back to the play on the field, and when it cuts back to the sideline, Kone has refused to sit down. He's sort of like up off the bench, yelling at Jesse. Dane St. Clair, obviously, because he's a legend, is in between, trying to talk down Kone, and Jesse comes over, and they're sort of in a heated discussion as well, and then it cuts back to the rest of the game. Nathan Saliba had come on in place of him. It seems like Kone was upset about coming off the field. I think the only reason this really flashed across for people is this is in the context of Ismael Kone getting told by the coach of Marseille in training, tell your agent to go find a new team because you don't belong here, and question marks around what Kone's like off the field and how he fits into teams, his maturity level, his professionalism, and all of that. Jesse came out of it. He was asked about it after training yesterday, and he was like, Kone's going to start in the next game. I think we have a really good relationship. Afterwards, we talked. I think we have a better relationship now than we did before. I would be shocked if Jesse was uncomfortable by a player being like, effing play me, right? Like that sounds like Jesse's bread and butter. That's like Tyler Adams shit right there. So I don't think he's bothered by that. I think maybe some of the awkwardness came from like being like, oh, good for Nathan Saliba that he got on the field because Saliba was asked about it. And he was like, no, we talked. He talked to the team. Everyone's fine. I think Kone is going to do a press conference later today. He's going to be on the Matchday -1 press conference, and we'll talk as well. If you have numerous things, people are going to start to cloud around it.
Yeah, I think Jesse Marsch handled this very, very well with how he answered questions in the media. It's just unfortunate that you understand, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, when a player's like, no, like I need to keep playing me, play me, like it is bad when you make it, like you just have to have more awareness in that moment. Just a billion cameras, like that's too, like blow up on him in the locker room, scream at him in the locker room, right? Like it's too public, and I hope that he'll learn like that side of things moving forward. Like again, while it's not perfect, I don't hate the underlying, like that's better than like a different reason for getting angry, right? Like that's and the old coach cliche is like, yeah, I don't want my players to be happy when they come off the field kind of thing. I would prefer them to not do it like that if I was a coach. And yeah, Kone, so Josh Cloak at The Athletic wrote a really, really good piece about Ismael Kone and that Marseille moment leading into the window. And it was, there were several different quotes on it. So Kone clearly didn't say like, I'll just answer this once, no comment or whatever. He just kind of like, hey, look, like, he's like, the worst part of it was just that like my family, right? The amount of people who was sending me that and upset by it. He's kind of like, hey, like in football, this happens. This happens more than people know. And I was happy to see that he said like, yeah, I didn't think that they were gonna, like, I would have wished that they didn't put that out. And I'm like, yeah, like that's
insane. It is the most Marseille thing you could do though.
And that's what they used to like the trailer for the thing. It wasn't like this, somebody had to go find it. It was like, this is how they were promoting the documentary. And like, I can't say enough how awful it is. And you know, let's talk about off the field issues for the team that has Mason fucking Greenwood. Like, give me a break, dude.
Yeah. A team that, by the way, I think is one of the coolest in the world of like Marseille, the city, the fan base, the history, the colors. As a club, is as big a tire fire as any club on the planet. And if they wanted to join Major League Soccer or the Turkish League or Liga MX, they would be, you know,
God,
a pig in mud. I'll use that phrase or whatever else. They'd be perfectly where they need to be. Canada plays against Wales in Cardiff or at Swansea. That game coming up on Tuesday. So we will have reaction for all of that coming up on our show on Thursday, as well as on Kickback Committee, which will come out Wednesday around noonish with myself and Susanna and some special guests for that show. Before we get out of here, let's talk about a few things. Let's start with suspensions. The Leagues Cup suspensions came down, and I cannot get over Steven Lenhart being a part of this. I have been texting you about this since way late afterwards because I didn't realize it was the actual Steven Lenhart, and I love it. I think it's the best thing that's happened in 20 years in soccer, maybe in North America.
So just for people who maybe haven't seen or forgot the totality suspensions from the Leagues Cup, because the Leagues Cup can only suspend people for the Leagues Cup. Luis Suarez, 6 games. Steven Lenhart, 5 games. Tomas Aviles, 3 games. Sergio Busquets, 2 games. And again, all of these suspensions are just for Leagues Cup. All those players and coach were fined as well. Yes, in a very serious, again, spitting and everything else that we talk about, the levity and the golden line of Steven Lenhart being in that is, I can't tell you how many texts and replies and stuff like someone's like, wait a minute, the Steven Lenhart? I was with the Athletics' Paul Tenorio when this was coming down. We were getting lunch after USMNT training or whatever, and
meeting of the minds.
There was like 30 minutes where we probably didn't say anything to each other than smiling and just saying Steven Lenhart's name, and like him getting texts from people, me getting to be like, is there another Steven Lenhart? And the detail, he's the team like psychologist,
which is amazing.
It's you couldn't write this in fiction. It makes me so happy, and again, a much needed levity to a serious situation. And I think that's pretty balanced mental health awareness. Sometimes you gotta throw, bro. Sometimes you gotta throw.
Tom taking psychological therapy
from Steven Lenhart is the
fight.
My wife is a mental health therapist, and she is obviously an expert, incredible, so much smarter than me emotionally and book smart, whatever. Steven Lenhart is my kind of psychologist, I think, with all due respect to my wife.
You're going to be going into arguments. You'll be like, well, my research via Steven Lenhart said, experts say that it's actually a good thing if I swing at someone.
Scholars would argue.
Yeah. Well, in my men's league game this weekend when I fought that guy, yeah, actually, people say it's actually really good for your mental health. Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, because we have fans who are newer to the league, Steven Lenhart was a center forward in MLS, bit of a journeyman, but really made his name with the San Jose Earthquakes, playing alongside Alan Gordon and Chris Wondolowski in a front line for a team that was nicknamed the Goonies because they had like a year where they had every game they were losing in stoppage time and came back and won because Steven Lenhart and Alan Gordon were just battering rams that would beat the crap out of your team. And he is the ultimate, you love him on your team and you hate him when you play against him. And he is a super fascinating human being. He then went and played in Japan a little bit, spent a lot of time in Japan, and is this like perfect, he's like the soccer player who doesn't watch soccer. So that's like one side of him, which is a huge subset of people, which is really fascinating to interact with. And then the other side is he's this like Zen master guy who starts fights and gets suspended as team psychologist for 5 to 10 games because he's out here, because he's not going to let a fight go away. And it's like just a fascinating human being. The joke I made in our write-up for the YouTube show was, I'm shocked Cuauhtémoc Blanco didn't get in here. Like if you were to walk in to a room of MLS sickos and you're like, name someone who would get suspended for no reason, the list would be Steven Lenhart and Cuauhtémoc Blanco and probably Clint Dempsey as well. And I'm shocked that none of them ended up on this list either. Last little piece of this. Do we think MLS will add any suspensions?
I would be very surprised if they don't, is my understanding and my expectation. But we'll see.
Okay. Let's get into New Hampshire. New Hampshire is our state for 50 states of soccer coming up here this week. So we will have our five-a-side that we will put together. We will have our scouting report as well. Best soccer bars, lore players, who are the local legends, best grounds, most important grounds, whatever it is, inside the state, best youth club. We will go through all of that. And so that is going to be a big part of what we're doing this week. As I said, Charlie Davies, the number one player in the history of soccer in this state. He is going to be coming on to join us to help talk us through some things. In terms of five-a-sides, Charlie Davies is going to be at the top of that. Chuck D, a big part of the players that have come out of this state. It is not, this is going to shock you, Tom, probably equal to New Jersey in soccer. Like, I wouldn't say that's exactly the list of players that we have in this, but there is some soccer that's played in New Hampshire. Shockingly, I'm pretty sure Charlie's the only player to play for the Revs out of New Hampshire. Like, normally you get some local players that have been somewhere. So Rachel Hill currently with Bay FC, full-time starter in NWSL, two-time max semifinalist at UConn, 40 appearances in NWSL over the last 2 years, clearly on here. Josh Bauer, I had pretty high up here because not a lot of people have played a lot of pro. Tom, a guy who came out of college, really highly rated. He's probably still on a Doyle's spreadsheet depth chart, college American players in this position list, and has had a good pro career and may still have better to come.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to sound disrespectful. It is a different stratosphere than the arguments we were having on
New Jersey, dude.
I'm just saying. And by the way, not to make this better, Michael Bradley had a press availability before the game. He went out of his way to say New Jersey is home. So we need to.
No, I think he went out of his way to say, for soccer-wise and kickback, I am reaffirming that I am New Jersey, because I think he mentioned us in it. He's a big fan and everything that he's doing. Siad Haji comes in here, was a GA signing a few years back, ended up on the San Jose Earthquakes. Morgan Andrews, Notre Dame, USC grad, played a couple years for OL Reign and Boston Breakers before they went under. That is most of the names I came up with. Seacoast United, which is one of the big clubs in New Hampshire, I believe in terms of their PDL for the most part, now USL2, has had some big name players who have played for them in summers, like Moise Bombito, Jeff Florentowicz, guys like that. I don't think they fit into the from there conversations. And so New Hampshire's a little bit light on it, which is what I'm saying is, if you want to, you could move to New Hampshire, have a child, train them at a high level, and potentially they could fit into our list when we redo this in a couple of years. Tom, do you have any big New Hampshire things you want to talk about?
I don't.
I could have seen that one coming. It's a fun state to go and visit and go skiing for a weekend, which is most of my experience in New Hampshire. Beautiful. Yeah, especially in fall, which is the best season, which is an argument people had with me. They were really sad that summer is ending as we were at this USA game and this hurricane turned the weather really cold. And I was like, no, fall's the best season. And everyone knows that. And we are deep into it. We will have all of your reaction to the US-Japan game and the Canada-Wales game. We will dig back into MLS coming up. There were MLS games this weekend we didn't really touch on. Shout out to Owen Wolf for a big weekend, so we will dig into all of that. We've got plenty more to talk. Stick around. Thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you to all of you who were here live with us early on this Monday morning. We'll talk to you all again